call the meeting to order. If we can stand and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you everybody for coming. We have an unusually normally large crowd to this evening. Thank you for coming. First we'll go with visitors signed in wishing to speak. Before we do that, we'll just read you the ground rules for that because we normally don't have people coming.
Remind everybody of the rules. The public comments section is time set aside for the community to speak directly to the Board of Education. Per policy 1510, each speaker is given 3 minutes. When called, please stand at the podium and state your name and address. Please be respectful in your comments and do not divulge any personal or confidential information. Also, under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments related to employee personnel information or any topic that may disclose information about specific individuals. On these matters, we ask that you go through the appropriate administrative channels. The board will listen to your remarks, but no action or discussion will take place at this meeting. Therefore, please do not expect a response tonight. Okay.
First on the list we have Miss Natalie Connolly.
Where do I go here?
Yeah,
Yes,
please.
right there.
Hi, my name is Natalie Connolly and I live at 188 Costa Road. And I'm here to discuss the universal pre-K issue. My family's been living in Amherst since 2017, and during that time we've paid an exorbitant amount in school taxes, close to $40,000. And this is the first year that we're finally eligible to benefit from those taxes. And everything that I read and everything that I was told about the Universal Pre-K program was that there'd be a location lottery that determined where my son would be placed in the pre-K program. And Amherst School District knew how many students had applied. They knew how many students were going to get into the program and how many students were not going to get into the program. So this should have been an extremely transparent lottery system. Even a live lottery that we could watch like they do in other school districts. But instead, I was emailed many days later that my family, along with 41 other families, were waitlisted for a universal pre-K. So while 138 families got into the universal free pre-K program, my family and those 41 other families are looking at close to $10,000 in child care costs next year. So, not to mention the fact that my son has been at Amherst Community Church with the same group since he was an infant. So how is this fair? Basically, it's not fair. And it was not a transparent system from the beginning. I was not aware that I was not going to get into any universal pre-K program. And I do think that there are 2 possible solutions here. One is that Amherst School District needs to open 2 more universal pre-K classrooms before September 2024, so that everyone that initially applied gets into the program. Or the second option is that families that were waitlisted are given a school tax exemption or a school tax credit that can go towards other pre-K programs that are available in the area. I really think that this is the only equitable outcome here because this is the only equitable outcome here because Amherst School District should not be able to pick and choose who gets into the program and who has $10,000 to save or who has $10,000 that they have to spend on another year of childcare. I really feel like it was dictated in a very non-transparent way. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Miss Jill Byers. If I don't pronounce your names correct, please
You did.
excuse me.
Hi, my name is Jill Byers and I live at 173 Kings Highway. I have lived in the Amherst School District my entire life. I'm a teacher of 16 years in a neighboring district. My husband, an Amherst police lieutenant, and I have 3 children, whom are in 6th grade, 1st, and soon to be pre-K. as you know from my many emails, I'm here to speak about my vast concerns over the universal pre-K program and the overall lack of transparency, miscommunication, and the very misleading requests that we had to do by giving our information to the Smallwood and Windermere schools. After many emails with no real answers or solutions, I tried to find them on my own. Some of the things that I was trying to get clarification on were, I thought I had 2 minutes, not 3. So the first one was that the district advertised 7 full-day classrooms and 1 half-day classroom. But nowhere on the flyers at home did it specify that the residency rules would limit my child's option for only 6 classrooms. The district used wording on the website and the flyer, location lottery, which gives the indication and the misleading thoughts that every family was going to get a spot in this program, and that the lottery was used for the location, not for a spot in the program. After seeking some clarification with speaking with some employees in the district, I also learned that since my child was waitlisted, I had asked that since my child their home school is Smallwood, if the next spot was Windermere, would she be overlooked? The answer was no. She could not go to Windermere. How is the original lottery, my daughter was not eligible for a Windermere spot, but because she's waitlisted, now she is. That is not equitable. So because I couldn't get the answers I was looking for or any reasonable solutions, I contacted the state myself. I contacted New York State's Office of Early Learning. I'm going to read back to the board part of their email they sent to me. As per 8 NYCRR 15114D, in a given school year, when there may be more eligible children than available placements in the school district and collaborating pre-K programs, the lady then goes on, but for the sake of 3 minutes, I'm going to skip to her very last line. The process should be equitable and transparent for all eligible 4-year-olds and their families. The state's last sentence says it all. Nothing about this year's process has been transparent. Nothing about the last month of trying to get clarification has been easy, or what I expect from this district. I noticed the termination of an employee who used to run the pre-K program smoothly with little to no parent complaints as listed on tonight's agenda. To me, as an educator, that seems a little political. The Office of Early Learning encouraged me to work with the board, but in the end, it is my right and all of these parents' right to file a state complaint. To wrap up my 2 minutes, I am frustrated with how the entire 4 weeks of communication to multiple families have gone. As a teacher, I know how important my responsibility is to inform my own families of procedures and cannot get past the breakdown of many layers of communication which limited the understanding and misled of
I'm
families.
sorry,
ma'am.
your time's up.
I'll finish my sentence. Breakdowns not from teachers, but from administrative positions. I urge the board into looking into applying for hardship funding to create more classrooms to right the wrong of misleading tax-paying residents. There are options here.
Thank you. Next, we have Ms. Nicole Jones.
Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Jones, I live at 108 Hamilton Drive. I have been a resident of Snyder since 2021. When my husband and I were looking to buy our first home, we both knew we wanted our daughter to go to Amherst schools. My husband and his brothers all attended Amherst schools and thrived in the environment. Since moving to the district when my daughter was 1 year old, I have diligently familiarized myself with Amherst UPK's website and set reminders in our calendar for a year in advance so we could remember the registration period. We were so excited to watch our daughter grow and learn in this district. We registered and we hoped we'd get our first choice, Smallwood. Based off of Amherst School District's website, there was no indication that our daughter would not receive any placement options. The reality of her having a 1 in 5 chance of not getting placement was not displayed anywhere. As luck was not on our side, our daughter was picked second to last of the 182 students that applied, number 41 out of 42 students waitlisted. We are advised to seek out private preschool options. We have looked into alternative options, and they are not good. They're ranging in price from $8 to $15K a year. This is not an expense we were anticipating or prepared for. While I did have a lengthy discussion with Dr. Shanahan about all the complexities of the New York State funded UPK program regarding funding and physical space, I also learned more about the process of the wait list. The children picked earlier in the lottery who received placement but decline it will keep their original lottery number placement and will be offered secondary options before children who were picked later in the lottery are offered any options. To say I was disheartened by this was an understatement. This waitlist procedure does not demonstrate an equal opportunity for all. It is the equivalent of allowing some children to eat twice while others go hungry. I have looked at other local school district websites. They all have one thing in common that Amherst lacks: transparency. Cheektowaga School District offers a live viewing for the public to watch their lottery selection. Sweet Home mails out a yearly census so they can anticipate the number of applicants they will receive. Williamsville has a census link on their website for families to easily submit. These districts face the same struggles that Amherst does in terms of funding and finding classroom space, yet they have found a way to be upfront and clear about it. Between the lack of transparency and the recent tax increase, families like mine may not have the option to be able to afford private preschools. Just as our children's educational journey should be beginning, they will already be behind. Today, I will ask the Board of Education to reflect on these issues and to exhaust all options to find the resources and provide placement for all students waitlisted, and to remain transparent in your process to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to a report of board and committees. First up, we have a NYSSBA presentation. I'm happy to welcome Dave Lowry to our meeting. Dave is the Executive Director of the Erie County Association of School Boards, but tonight he is here as the New York State School Boards Association Area 1 Director with some exciting news about one of our students, Samantha J. Dave and Samantha, if you'd like to come to the podium, please.
Thank you. As Area 1 Director, I represent Erie, Niagara, Orleans, Genesee, and Wyoming counties. And I'd like to thank Sandy Rufo, the President of the New York State School Boards, and the Executive Director, Robert Snyder, for allowing me to present the Today's Leader Today Award. NYSSBA has always provided excellent service to school and BOCES boards of education. NYSSBA has a mission that is to grow future leaders. So NYSSBA focused on student leadership and created a Leaders Today Award. The recognition is unsolicited. Member relations staff from NYSSBA will read e-clips, which is a state aggregate of articles from around the state, and they will focus on those articles related to student leadership. The committee was notified about the leadership of Samantha J. forming the first Mental Health Awareness Committee at Amherst High School. Unlike NYSSBA's Champions of Change Award, boards may not even be aware of the student's acts. I'd like to read the plaque. The New York State School Boards Association, tomorrow's leader today. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way, and it's a quote by John Maxwell. This recognition is presented to Samantha J. to honor and commemorate the extraordinary leadership shown through your initiative to form the first Mental Health Awareness Committee at Amherst Central High School. We recognize your efforts and hope that they serve to inspire other students to bring additional positive change to New York State school districts and communities. And it's signed by New York State School Board President Sandra Rufo and the Executive Director Robert Schneider, and I present the award to you. Say a few words.
I'm just grateful to be able to have the platform to do what I do, and the teachers and advisors that I have at Amherst High School that allow you to do this kind of stuff, because not all teachers and advisors trust a student to talk to the school about issues such as mental health.
Thank you. I'd also like to thank the board and the administration for creating an environment where students can flourish. To thank each and every one of you for your service, and thank you for allowing me to present the award tonight. And if I could have the superintendent and the board president come up for a picture.
I won't block anybody.
This is not what I came for, I promise.
Thank you, Shannon.
Congratulations, Sarah. Well, there's always fun to have stuff like that happen at our meetings, so. Our next report is, let's see, Mrs. Goldhoff.
Yes, wanted to report on the most recent Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee meeting, which we had on Tuesday, March 26th. This was our third meeting. We, under the leadership of Dr. Shanahan and amazing group of people that have come together for this. We worked on the revision of the DEI mission statement. We looked at workforce diversity data that compared our student race and ethnicity to our faculty race and ethnicity, and we talked about recruitment efforts and the teacher pipeline, how to diversify the workforce in the district. And then we spent a big chunk of time, we broke into groups aligned with the strategic plan, the teaching and learning, student life, and Amherst Pride initiatives, and worked on creating specific initiatives related to DEI and related to those pieces already in the strategic plan. We have a lot more work to do, and we will be meeting again at the end of May to finish that work, creating and aligning and incorporating those DEI initiatives, and the goal is to present the final plan to the board in August.
Fantastic.
And then I also wanted to just report quickly on an event last Thursday. It was an ECASB event, Erie County Association of School Boards event, that was held at the Erie One BOCES CalSpan location, that highlighted all the amazing programs they're doing at that CalSpan location this year. Digital media and graphic design, which my son is a part of, and animation, music production. There's all sorts of great things. It's a beautiful facility. They plan on expanding it. They're actually going to have a social media marketing track next year, and they're going to have a whole esports arena that they're opening up as well. So a lot of exciting things coming from BOCES.
Great, thank you. And our next two committee reports are you, Ms. Nicole.
Yes, thank you so much. They're actually related, so I'll report first on the Safety Committee. On April 10th, the District Safety Committee convened via Zoom to review some recommendations for implementing the new Workforce Violence Prevention Policy Statement and the included procedures and action items. So far, administrators at each building have completed their required risk analysis, and our committee reviewed the new policy changes and approved a draft to put forth to the Policy Committee. We also approved a training plan that will be implemented throughout the buildings over the course of the next few weeks, and we are on track to meet the upcoming deadline of May of this year, which is coming fast. Then after that meeting, our Policy Committee, myself and Mrs. Arrington, met with our Policy Committee last Friday to review the new policy 6190 for workplace violence prevention as submitted from the Safety Committee and from Erie One BOCES Policy Services. We have this policy statement on our agenda tonight for pre-approval, and then the final policy will be presented for approval on a later agenda.
Great.
That's it.
Any other reports? All right, and we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm pleased to welcome Mr. Pigeon and the Pathfinders Task Force to honor our students and teachers of the month. Welcome.
Hey, gentlemen, join me.
Welcome back, Mr. Pigeon.
Hey.
It's good to see you live.
Happy to be here. We'll keep the Amherst High School Good News Express rolling here tonight. I'm joined by our Pathfinder leaders, Declan Goldhawk and Carson Belisle, and they're going to present to you our January, February, and March student and teachers of the month. Starting with Carson.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm Carson Belisle. For January 2024, we had Mr. Dave Benton. who is here today, nominated and won Teacher of the Month for January. So this is from one of the students. She said, "I believe that Mr. Benton, the counselor, deserves special recognition. A couple years back, when my father passed away, he understood the grieving process and even showed up to my father's funeral, which was very supportive and admirable because none of my school counselors in all the schools I've been to have ever done so. When I started my freshman year, he helped when things were just getting rough, and I felt like I was carrying the world's weight on my shoulders. He introduced me to so many coping skills, and he had open communication with my grandmother so I didn't feel so uncomfortable talking about the tough things on my own. He stayed on top of everything and made sure everything was up to date with paperwork and phone calls. When I was ready to come home, he made things go so smoothly, and he is constantly making time to talk to me, even if it's just to hear me out when I'm having a bad day. In the morning, he makes sure we talk, and when he's busy, he will always find time throughout his day to eventually speak. I definitely feel like a lot of times he is so busy, he doesn't even understand how helpful he is, how positive he is, and he makes working through hardships within my teenage life so much more reasonable. There has not been one conversation with him that has not impacted or changed the way my day went. I feel like he's so underrated, which I don't know why, because he is the most helpful person I've ever met. I have experience with that as well. I appreciate him dearly, and it's amazing how one person can do so much. Honestly, right now, Mr. Benton is my Superman. So, congratulations. For our Student of the Month for January, we have Mr. Kai Fowler. Mr. Zobel, our physics teacher at the high school, added that Kai is a student who clearly understands that meeting challenges provide satisfaction and learning that does not come from avoiding those challenges. He not only enjoys the challenges, but excels at them. Probably why he has taken 2 years of physics. Kai is a leader and a team player. He does not shy away from situations in which he may not be immediately successful. Instead, he uses them as opportunities for growth. Kai has a great sense of humor and his easygoing personality. I have enjoyed having him in class and having great conversations over the past 2 years. Mr. Chazen, our orchestra teacher at the high school, added that Kai is an exceptionally respectful and kind role model at ACHS, deeply involved in a variety of teams, clubs, activities in our school community. Kai is familiar to many and welcomed by all. He is approachable to his peers, helpful to his teachers, and coachable, and a class act gentleman. Mr. Cyrick added that I believe that Kai has had a great combination of intellect, maturity, and respect compared to any person in his class. Kai manages all the facets of being a high school teenager. He's able to focus on academics while holding leadership roles in extracurricular activities, athletics, and community service in a more mature way than many students. He's consistently polite with everyone he comes in contact with during his day. This behavior is seen when communicating with his peers, communicating with adult officials, teachers, and coaches, as well as when interacting with many teammates. Kai always garners and gives respect in all his professional and social relationships. There was another Student of the Month for January, Aaron Sheridan. Mr. Bauer, one of our chemistry teachers at the high school, added that Aaron is an outstanding AP chemistry student in many ways. One way is that she is willing to read the textbook carefully. Well, that's impressive. This allows her to combine information with many sources to have a more complete understanding of chemistry. I appreciate that I can count on Erin to ask clarifying questions during instruction that helps communication for everyone. Her excellent focus allows her to catch on many mistakes that I make even before they become a source of confusion. This attention to detail carries over from her work to tests and lab reports. So that was our January student teacher.
Aaron is here in the gold there, freshly back from France. Yeah.
Okay, so for February 2024, we have Mr. Robert Calamari, who is a new social studies teacher, correct, at the high school. I'm only hearing great things. So keep it up. This is from Mrs. Sholkoff, one of the leaders of our Pathfinders. I would like to nominate Mr. Robert Calamari for Teacher of the Month. I've had the pleasure of working with him on the Global 10 team this year, and he's a rock star. He's always willing to help out, create materials needed, or just bring excitement to our team meetings. He has been a welcome addition to our social studies department this year. It is his first year teaching an AP course, and he is doing a phenomenal job balancing that with his other two preps. He is dedicated to his craft and is extremely hardworking. This is from Miss Allison Boyer, or McEaster Boyer, for those of you who take Latin. Bobby is a new teacher at the high school, and has made a point to get to know all of his colleagues. He works very hard to plan and create the best lessons possible, and has shown his commitment to ACHS by helping out with the Quiz Bowl team. We are happy to have him. So for Student of the Month for February, we have Journey Edwards. This is from Christopher Bannis. Journey is respectful, caring, kind, and considerate. She works incredibly hard in class and always has her homework and other assignments done on time. She works well with her peers, is collaborative, and a team player. She cares about her grades and her academic success. She is a model student in the classroom and deserves recognition for her efforts and hard work. Congratulations. Another Student of the Month for February is Fahad Hassoun. This is from Daryl Nance, a student at the high school. He says, I nominate my best friend, Fahad Hassoun, because he is a good friend and he's smart. He helps other people when he is asked, and he is very creative. Overall, he is my best friend, and he has been since 9th grade. This is from Anna Stang. It says, Fahad is an incredibly hardworking and diligent student. He has shown great improvements throughout this semester, and is consistently on task and giving his best effort. He is one of the first students to help out around the classroom and help other students who have trouble with English to translate instructions and feedback. He is kind and sweet and always looks out for his classmates. He comes to class eager and ready to learn and carries an infectious attitude that reflects on both his peers and on his teachers. Congratulations.
The Teacher of the Month for March was Mr. Paul Kurtzel, and so one of the testimonies from Savannah Murasawi is, Mr. Kurtzel deserves my nomination. He is my biology teacher and teaches in a fun and engaging way. He makes everyone feel welcome, appreciated, and that they can learn in a safe space. He is easy to talk to and makes learning fun. Biology has become my new favorite subject thanks to him. I really enjoy his class and look forward to going every day. He helps me work hard and get great grades in my tests. He's a great teacher that deserves recognition. And one of the students for the month for March was Molly Duggan. A testimonial from Ms. Kirsten Raitzer is, Molly Duggan is an exceptional student. She brightens our school community with her kindness, quiet leadership, positive character, and unwavering grit. Her compassion knows no bounds, and she constantly goes out of her way to support her peers, offering a listening ear and a helping hand whenever needed. Molly's leadership shines brightly as she fearlessly takes on challenges, inspiring others to follow suit. She's currently taking a full load of AP classes while participating in tennis, track, the operetta, both jazz ensembles, which has required her to learn a secondary instrument, ECMEA and NISMA for both voice and trumpet, and a slew of after-school clubs. Molly is a shining star in my basic music theory class. She is hungry to learn and often spends her free moments doing extra lessons on complex topics. Molly is a beacon of integrity and honesty and sets a high standard for those around her. And then the other student of the month for March was Tristan Price. From Mr. Chris Bannis, Tristan is a kind, respectful, considerate, and caring student. He works incredibly hard in class and always has his homework and other assignments done on time. He works well with his peers, is collaborative, and a team player. He cares about his grades and his academic success. Tristan is a model student in the classroom and deserves recognition for all his efforts and hard work.
Thank you, and that's our presentation, and we appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. For those of you who have other things to go do, feel free if you want before we get going. And you want to go home and do your homework or whatever. Don't feel bad that you have to
Oh, yeah, he's sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Those two presenters are very wonderful. Yes, they were.
So I'm pleased to welcome, as we continue with the superintendent's report, Mr. Pigeon and our high school assistant principals, Mr. Kapperman and Mrs. Kibler, to the podium to present.
Don't feel bad, we are not reflective of your presentation at all.
An update on,
You're gonna graduate anyway.
Yeah, folks, sorry to delay. Thank you for this opportunity, as always. It's always a wonderful opportunity to shine a spotlight on Amherst Central High School and the wonderful work of our students, our staff. I'm joined here by my coworkers and partners, Ms. Kibler and Mr. Kapperman, and without further ado, we'll jump in. Featuring every year, for quite a while now, we've been kind of following themes. This theme this year of unity, which is part of our athletics program, it also becomes part of the culture of the school. You'll see kind of thread through what we're updating you on tonight with strategic planning efforts. You're very familiar with our pillars of teaching and learning, student life, and Amherst pride, and we really keep those as our North Star as we work and develop efforts and nurture ongoing efforts related to the strategic plan. So as you know probably from other presentations that we updated our plan, we had a lengthy plan that needed some updating coming out of the pandemic. So we were able to work as a K-12 team and then work within the building and solicit feedback from the staff as the course of last year progressed. Just some examples of thoughts that people brought forward as we were recalibrating what our efforts were going to be for the upcoming year. We've had a tradition of meeting in the summer in strategic planning teams, and this is our planning team that met this summer always over at Damon College to really bring things to life and work together on these initiatives. One of the very anchored initiatives that we have that requires a lot of forethought and effort is related to DDI, which is an ed term that we throw around a lot, data-driven instruction. And in secondary environments 6 through 12, there's a lot of goal setting related to your particular content that's extremely relevant. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Kapperman to share a little bit about our ongoing DDI efforts.
All right, good evening, everyone. So, yeah, DDI is about as vanilla ice cream as it gets when you think about strategic planning for learning and achievement. But it's also a cornerstone of those initiatives. And let's see if I can manage the Canva. Here we go. All right, so every year we have DDI goals. And when we think of DDI, data-driven instruction, I think what most traditionally comes to mind for those in the education field who are familiar with it is looking at standardized assessments, digging into item analyses, identifying areas where students perform particularly well, looking for areas where there are opportunities in the curriculum to improve student performance. And we absolutely kept with the spirit of that, but we also wanted to make sure that coming back into a fully fledged strategic plan, we had strong investment from all of the departments. That more traditional way of thinking about DDI is something that, for example, our math department really digs into and sticks with. They've done a lot of work looking at standardized tests. But for some of our departments like art, music, CTE, that type of approach requires a little more creativity. So what we're doing with those departments is looking across the projects in the curriculum that they're investing in this year, and they are developing some new department standardized measures that year to year and section to section they are going to ensure consistency with and continue to develop and have those evolve year to year so that they have their own more objective benchmark measures with regard to the skills and standards in those areas. We've really made it a point to start with teacher voice, teacher goals that they identified within their departments, and then craft our DDI goals based on what they brought forth. So, like I said there, a little more vigor with the rigor.
And I'll jump in here
Back to
because,
Mr. Pigeon.
yeah, we're going to do a little toggling here. One of our goals was really to take a deeper dive into AI and how AI is going to be affecting education. You know, things were breaking quite quickly last year And some of our first touches with AI were in the realm of academic integrity. We wanted to make sure we were keeping an eye on that. But also, how can AI, how is it going to affect our students? And how is it going to affect the classroom? And in essence, how can we take possession of it? So let me go back here. We've been working with a consultant. We've had some training relative to that. And AI is moving very rapidly, everywhere, but in education specifically, in terms of from the collegiate level on down to the secondary level. So we've got some expert advice and consultants working with us so that we can really keep a strong pulse on what's going on in the marketplace, specifically the tools, which are moving quickly. The ChatGPT has changed a few times. They've been purchased. Google Bard has already changed to Google Gemini, and Microsoft's Bing Copilot is also a player in the game, and there's also a number of platforms that are emerging that are very school friendly. So we're keeping a close eye on that, and specifically learning. So we put a team of teachers together. These are kind of our AI pioneers. We thought a great step one would really dive in and do a book study and really understand. The book study focuses on the classroom applications, how students can use it, and how we can use it in classrooms. So we're working together as a team to stay on top of it. I think it was very important for us in education to demonstrate to students that we have knowledge of it, we understand it, and that all teachers really need to understand AI and the implications of AI. So we're very positive, focused towards the future of AI and really kind of keeping a very close eye on its evolution, which is extremely rapid. So we have a team, we're working with Dr. Shanahan as well, Everyone BOCES, that are all kind of trying to keep up in some ways with AI, as well as find the right sweet spot with AI in terms of how it's going to affect education. And then I'll turn it over to Ms. Kibler to talk about one of our strategic goals related to student attendance.
So, after returning from COVID, we knew that things are not the same as they used to be. And recent research has pointed towards school attendance being a nationwide health crisis. So we began diving into our own policies related to attendance and what they look like. We formed a small committee to look into other policies and strategies that support positive school attendance in the school community. One of the most prominent resources is Attendance Works. It's a national think tank focused on providing resources and improving attendance. Attendance Works has reinvigorated our efforts and reinforced the work that we were already doing. This year, we've increased the home visits conducted by administrators, counselors, social workers, and even our school SRO on occasion. We've been working in collaboration with the middle school to support a continuity from 8th grade to 9th grade, as well as families that are residing in both the middle school and the high school. We know that tackling attendance needs to be done in a positive manner and not just a punitive one. So we're focusing on peer mentoring and fostering a connection between our most vulnerable students, because we know the number one factor in attendance is relationships. Additionally, we began the year with a marketing effort in collaboration with Ms. Lori Sisenko, and she made this wonderful graphic for us, the Attendance Matters message. We use it as a priority in communication with our students and their families. We want them to know that they matter to us and that we are there for them. And if you heard the testimony about Dave Benton, I think that just speaks volumes for what we strive to do on a daily basis in the school community. This year, we put a spotlight on students with perfect attendance every month to showcase their efforts into attending school and why they attend. You can see these spotlights on our ACHS Facebook page and our Instagram pages. That one's for you, Mr. Pigeon.
Thank you.
The effort has given student voice to student attendance. Some of the students, showcase, this is my duty. I want to go to Mr. Jones's class every day. He loves his social studies teacher. And I try not to miss. I like to have high grades and I like to see my friends. So it is a well-rounded reason for students to come. It's not about always socializing or education. Students do enjoy all of the other things that we offer. So as we move on to priority 2, I could spend hours and hours highlighting student life and what we do at the high school on a minute-by-minute basis. Our Tigers are so engaged
and they do amazing things. In sticking with our theme of unity this year, we brought back the International Festival to showcase the amazing diversity within the Amherst community. We had community partners from the Chinese Art Club and the ECC Culture Club, our Muslim Student Association, a German exchange student prepared food to share with his classmates, an Egyptian student prepared food to share with his classmates. A teacher assistant, who I found out just recently is from Argentina, provided not only a poster board with information from her home country, but a dish as well. Several other students and faculty came and they enjoyed a time together where we can just share, have fun, watch a dancer from the Hispanic Heritage community that was purchased by the Hispanic Heritage community to come and present with us. So if we are looking forward to a better and bigger celebration next year on April 9th. Not only do we do a myriad of extracurricular activities, but we have many co-curricular activities as well. And Mr. Kepperman is going to highlight several of those.
So, Leaders and Change Makers, Civics in Action is a new elective that we're offering this year. And we put it under student life as opposed to teaching and learning because the spirit of that elective is really complementary to the Seal of Civic Readiness. And the spirit of that is really thinking about what it means to be a citizen, what opportunities, what needs, what challenges there are out in the local community or the larger community or even just the school community. And then thinking about, as citizens, what we can and ought to do to affect a positive change, and in particular as student citizens, what opportunities are there to affect positive change. So this elective is focused on that need and that initiative, and it really was developed to complement the SCR. It's not the only avenue to achieve the Seal of Civic Readiness, but it has helped to expand the Seal of Civic Readiness, which is growing each year. We have over 50 students pursuing the Seal this year, and in addition to there being more students pursuing it, we have a broader range of students pursuing it. Students who often are looking for opportunities to excel in APs are usually attracted to things like the Seal, but we've got many more students beyond those who typically are pursuing those types of accolades now taking an interest in this. So it's growing in number, it's growing in breadth, and really the depth and creativity of the projects is also expanding. So I'll give you a couple examples. Actually, I'll wait to advance. Students are working on some conceptual projects. One example of that is thinking about how Amherst as a district and Amherst as a community can go greener. Another example that's a little bit more hands-on is Sleep in Heavenly Peace is a project that we have students volunteering with where they're building beds for people in need of beds to sleep in. And not only is that a great example of civic action, it also was very eye-opening for a lot of our students. And another really neat example that is really an example of having an impact is, there we go. Alex is working on a project that is very community focused, but also near and dear to his own heart. He is working to get Lehigh Valley Station House on the National Register of Historic Transportation. That's near and dear to his heart because his great-grandfather lived in the house and worked for the railroad. And he's received a letter of intent, approval to move forward with erecting a marker, working in collaboration with the Williamsville Town Board and the county historian to have a marker put there to acknowledge that as a historical location in the community. So a great example of something that is both instructionally meaningful, but also students reaching out and having a real world impact in the community. Along those same lines, we have the UB WISE program. WISE stands for Women in Science and Engineering. This is not a new program either. We've had it for a few years, but it is also a growing program. We had 6 slots to fill with UB in the WISE program, and what those students do is they go twice a year in the fall and in the spring to tour the UB campus see programs in science, engineering, math, and technology. Based on what their interests are, they're paired with mentors, student mentors who are graduate students in those programs. And they learn about the programs, and they also learn more about the fields and opportunities in those fields that might be of interest to them. So we had 6 slots, but we had 25 sophomore girls apply for those 6 slots, which was a huge increase over previous years. It made it difficult to select students, but went back and forth with UB a little bit. We were able to get 10 of those girls into the program. And to complement that, we have our new ACHS STEM Club. And the STEM Club is something that's open to all of our students, whereas UBY's program is open to sophomore girls. And the STEM Club also created an opportunity, though, for other students who couldn't participate in that program to get involved in something that would fit with that interest in science, technology, engineering, and math. That picture there is an example of a neat little activity they did. They went to Windermere and they spoke to students in one of the Windermere classrooms about their interest in those areas, starting to help to nurture those interests earlier on. And we've got one more slide on that. Very student interest driven club. This is an example of something the club did around Halloween, and I'm going to read off the slide because it's beyond my depth in math. So they made Stato lanterns where they collected data about each pumpkin and used linear regression models to determine if there were any trends among the different variables. So a great example of a student interest driven project around the holidays, and this is another example of how we're not just focusing on developing students that are great learners in the classroom. We're very focused on expanding out into the community and getting students thinking about what they're going to do next and how even now as students they can have a meaningful impact. I think that might be it for me for the moment.
Yes, you know, sticking under priority 2 in student life, I think what is becoming very evident to us and most gratifying related to the length now that we've had in terms of our strategic planning efforts. It's specifically following those pillars. And we're really starting to see not only the unity that comes from these extracurricular, and I'll call them in often cases co-curricular efforts, but we're starting to see the unity and the synergy in terms of how these intersect, and we have students participating in the ideas forming in different columns. For example, you know, this is a wonderful example. One of our students in our internship program, which we're not speaking to about tonight, she's been writing for the UB Spectrum, which is the historic newspaper for the University of Buffalo. But one of her articles that was selected to make the publication was about our Women for Change and our STEM efforts. So it's internship meets Women for Change meets STEM efforts. So we're starting to see that synergy amongst these efforts really coalesce together in some very powerful ways. Challenge to Change continues to grow. We've got great participation, and under the DEI umbrella, we're really focusing in on all of our students having voices in very important areas. We continue to collaborate with Rochester's Rock for Change and with our Western New York partners. We meet regularly with Williamsville, Sweet Home, Kenmore to keep the effort going locally. This year's Black History Month featured local partners in Calypso and young entrepreneurs in Unapologetic Coffee, which is on Main Street in East Ferry. In the city, we served 600 cups of their coffee in one day, so our Tigers continue to be caffeinated. And it really was a wonderful, we always culminate in a capstone celebration at the end of the year in our assembly. So I want to always report on that because it's very important work that our students are doing in collaboration with community partners in other schools in other regions. Another effort that I thought you would like to hear about was our Careers in Ed and our Tiger Teachers, which is really blooming this year. We dabbled a little bit last year in an initial conference that's been put together by our local education colleges, and Erie Wimbosis coordinates it. And that has borne into interest growing in this area. We certainly would love to grow our own in terms of Tigers being future teachers within our own district. And it takes a little extra effort to attract teenagers to education while they're still getting their education. I can think of probably many teachers that thought there's no way in heck in high school they thought they were going to be teachers, but they figure it out. But we're hoping they'll figure it out earlier. So they're doing a number of things. Besides attending these conferences, we thought the logical place to grow our own is within our own building. So we're seeing our students interested in educating, visiting more classrooms. This was another Windermere stop, if I'm not mistaken, where a few of our students had pushed down. Ms. Sorrentino's been nice enough to take on this club, and she solicited K-12, anybody that wanted some high school Tiger volunteers to come down, and she had many teachers in the district in terms of takers for a number of different activities. And they also did a special effort around Read Across America, the NEA's program, with our students visiting classrooms. So this is growing, and we look forward to more robust reports about our Tiger teachers all over the district populating our elementary and middle school classrooms. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kapperman once again to give you an update on our UB Fellowship. That's another growth area.
Yeah, as I was looking over the slides earlier today, that is something that really seemed like a common theme is growing, right? We talked about a number of things that aren't one and done, our initiatives that we invest in and then start to fade. We're talking about a lot of things that year to year continue to build and grow, and this is another example of that, the UB residency program, where we have student teachers who are with us for the entire school year rather than just a typical 6-week student teacher placement. And this has been a wonderful program and opportunity all around. It's been great for our candidates. We have more this year than last year, and we're starting to talk about who will be in the program next year. These young student teacher candidates get a much more comprehensive experience in the classroom than they would through a typical shorter 6-week student teaching experience. But beyond that, it comes to feel like almost like a mentor-mentee partnership between that mentor-teacher and the mentee-teacher candidate. And a nice little side benefit is we have a seamless built-in substitute in those classrooms because they're also able to sub for those teachers if they're out. So as I said, the program is growing. We're looking ahead to next year, and the teachers are thrilled with having these folks in our building. We're thrilled with having these folks in our building, and we're very excited to continue that partnership moving forward.
As well, we continue to grow our partnerships. One of the things that it's hard to give UD a quote-unquote exclusive because they don't represent every content area. Our partnership with Buffalo State College for student teachers has been growing as well. Kind of coincidentally, or perhaps more connected I should say, not coincidentally, is that Buffalo State University is the home of the Western New York Network of English Teachers. 2 of our current English teachers are on the senior leadership of that group. So they are a strong central place for budding ELA teachers. So we get access to those teachers as well as the network's professional development in conjunction with Dr. Sircone that we've been working with, I should say, for many years. So there's an added benefit of professional development with Buffalo State University when it comes to ELA and the work of Dr. Sircone with our staff in terms of really being on the cutting edge of ELA practices. So that is an exciting area for us as well in the growth of student teachers. Finally, in terms of Amherst Pride, I always like to draw your attention to this is just an appetizer in terms of the meal we are serving. Can you get out of here without a food analogy? Appetizer, meal, buffet of what is Amherst High School.
Many ingredients in this food. I've heard them all.
I don't know, Mr. Lowry bought treats.
Oh, there you go. And a food fundraiser if they're with you. Yes. They're, and it all fits together in terms of, one of the biggest, some of the hardest work we do in education are examples like attendance. That's a challenging, roll up your sleeves type of work for educators. Or, fine tuning your curriculum and your instruction. When it comes together in motivating students to come to school. Having a vibrant school, having a welcoming school, having a school where there's positive things going on a, Ms. Kibler said minute to minute. That's not a stretch. There's things going on constantly that are positive, co-curricular. Just today I was, and I won't use a 70s analogy about Three's Company, but I'll say I was supervising Dungeons and Dragons while we had an Eid festival going on. And athletes walking in and out and enjoying the food. There's just so much going on. One of the places that we can really keep that drumbeat out in the public is through our social media. And I put some of the figures up there, and this was a modest one. We average about 100,000 per month, people seeing our good news. And there's a lot of engagement when you see those numbers like 12,000. That means someone didn't just pass by it. They clicked into it to look and read it further. So there's a lot of good news being delivered to our community and our region about our district and specifically our students and our staff. So we're very proud of those things, and we like to draw attention to those because showcasing and celebrating is a big part of what we do for a living as well. That concludes our program, and if you'd like to ask any questions, we're certainly here.
Well, thank you. I appreciate all three of you being here to not only bring some of our students and staff to life during the Pathfinders Task Force, but also to provide this comprehensive update on all the wonderful things happening at Amherst High School. So thank you so much. I now would like to move on to our proposed budget for the 24-25 school year. There is some news coming out of Albany that a budget agreement or spending plan has been reached. However, there are also reports that there's many details that still need to be worked out regarding many of the bills. So we're being told that we should not expect state aid runs in anytime soon, or at least within the next week or so. We're keeping our fingers crossed that they move faster than that, but as we always do, we continue to be nimble and we continue to work on our budget with the data that we have, and I think we're confident to present a proposed budget to you tonight for your consideration and adoption next week at our meeting on Tuesday. Welcome, Mrs. Bazinski.
Thank you. Yes, so when we left you with our last presentation, we had a $600,000 budget gap, and we had a couple different ways we were planning to close that gap that we were going to explore over the last 12 weeks. So one of them was waiting for state aid. If the foundation aid is fully funded, we anticipated an increase of just over $600,000, which we knew would instantly close that gap. Unfortunately, we haven't received that news. So to be conservative, we did leave our state aid where it was, but then we needed to close the gap. So we actually came to a three-pronged approach where we looked at our expenditures, we looked at our revenues, and we looked at our reserves. So tonight we're going to share you the changes that we made. As normal, only items in blue are updated, so anything in black is the same. It looks like there's a lot, but I assure you there's not. It's just that because we were coming from three different sides of the budget, we were making changes in every area. So on our revenue assumptions, no increase to state aid, but we did increase our miscellaneous revenues. So we have interest earnings that are unprecedented in the last 15 years, maybe 10 years. So we've been keeping a conservative estimate, but we did increase it about $50,000 from where we were in our last presentation. It brings us up to roughly $470,000 in interest earnings. We are expecting to be over $500,000 this year, but we want to be conservative because this budget is going to cover us for the next 15 months. So we don't want to estimate it so high, then have interest rates drop, and then have a deficit. The other area that we increased on the revenue side is our BOCES surplus refund. So BOCES aren't able to keep fund balance. So any monies that they bring in for services that they don't end up spending, they send back to the districts in the form of a surplus rebate. So every year we estimate about $100,000, and it comes in anywhere from 80 to maybe 150. So we had the 100,000 in, but we'd received an estimate from BOCES that it was going to be higher than that this year, up to maybe 160 to 180. So we added 53,000 in that line as well, which increased our revenues by 103,000. So that was the first 100 of our $600,000 gap. The 400,000 of it came from our reserves. So we talked about maybe increasing them 6, but we were able to get that down to 4. And our proposal is to use 50,000 of our TRS reserve, 200,000 of our ERS reserve, and those figures match the increases in both of those areas on the expenditure side for this year. And then the EBLAR reserve, which is our employee benefits reserve, which we use for retirement payments, about 150,000. We didn't make any changes to the state aid slide, this is just what shows that if the foundation need, or the foundation formula was fully funded, we'd have about 663,000 more. Which leaves us with revenue projections of an increase of 4.3%, overall $78.75 million. On the expenditure side, we were able to reduce our expenditures, and that came from changes in staffing, salary staffing, not because of cuts or reductions, because we're not reducing or cutting any positions, but because we had some additional retirements and resignations that were handed in since our last meeting. So we added an administrative retirement, a teaching assistant, another facilities retirement, and then a couple more teachers who have resigned. While these positions will be filled, these are higher paid salary positions that are filled with starting salary positions. So there's a little bit of breakage there. So we're able to maintain our staffing levels and our programs, but still realize some savings. The anticipated breakage from the savings was about an increase of $89,000 to $93,000 when you included fringe benefits in there. So there was our other $100,000. No changes to staffing. This left us with personnel increase of 3.67%, which is about 1.27. That was about 1.36 last time. And it simply was because of the retirements and resignations. The changes in benefits, again, are only because we had those reductions in salary payments. So, one other change that we made, it didn't affect our gap, but when we went through our BOCES budget, we took estimates and we went through and tied it out to actual usage, projected usage, and there was a change in about $83,000 that we had in the BOCES budget that we wouldn't necessarily need. We moved that down into the transportation line because there was some concern that we might be a little short in that area. So it didn't increase or decrease our overall spending, it just shifted it from one category to the next. And so this leaves us with, again, a 4.3% increase in spending, $3.2 million increase with an overall budget of $78.75 million. And this is our balanced budget. In the future, we still do show gaps in the next 2 years, but also a reminder that those expenditures are estimates and the revenues, while also estimates, do not include any increases to state aid at all.
So we're keeping a keen eye on the state budget development, because as you may recall from previous discussions, there were 2 items in the governor's proposal that were really garnering a lot of attention. One was the removal of Save Harmless, which guaranteed a minimum increase for all districts if the foundation aid formula ran and they were seeing a decrease. Initially, I think the one house budgets were calling for a minimum 3% increase for anyone that fell into Save Harmless. Reports that I'm reading this week are saying that they would hold Save Harmless flat, so districts who fell into that category would get the same amount of foundation aid this year as they did last year. Thankfully, we don't fall into that category, but the other item we talked about was the use of the inflation factor. So the formula, according, if it were run the way it's written, should use 4.1% as an inflation factor, and the governor's proposal used 2.4. So that's one of the items that seems to be still getting negotiated. Reports that I'm getting from the school superintendent's council are saying that they're somewhere near 2.8% that they might be applying as the inflation factor. So I think we could reasonably expect an increase in our state aid, although it might be minimal when the state aid runs come out and the budget is finalized. But that's why I would say that this budget represents a good spending plan with only room for improvement on the positive side to minimize our use of reserves once we get the final state aid runs. Does anybody have any questions? I thought you were getting ready to ask a question before I jumped in.
No.
I'm sorry.
So we were able to present a balanced budget, and if the board is in agreement with that and comfortable with that, it'll be presented on the April 23rd agenda for your adoption.
All right, so I'm gonna pull the board to make sure we're good with moving forward with this budget. Ms. Benson? is there
Yes,
anything?
I'm very thankful that our district is handling all of this so well. I just have to say that.
Ms. Goulart?
Yes.
Ms. Goulart?
Yes.
And then some I, so.
Of the 179 applicants that came in. So all of the students' names were entered into the spreadsheet and then randomized. And then we have enough spots for 138. So students 1 through 138 or then they have positions in the UPK. The others were placed on a wait list. That's 41 people on a wait list. Since then, 6 have declined their spots, and so we now have 35 on the wait list. The whole process is, as I said, is congruent with education law. Separate from the lottery process is a placement process. There is no law regulation governing how that's done. It is under local control, which means we as a district deem that process and how it's done. So after every name is in the lottery, rank ordered, we move to the placement process, which is separate. We decoupled. Parents in the application process will fill out preferences. We go down and offer what we can based on that, all the way through 1 through 138. We use that to inform, but there's no guarantee about where a student is placed. Then we did receive feedback, as you did, from the parents, and we do take our parent feedback extremely, it's very important to us. We are here to serve a community and a district. As such, we scrutinized the website again, looking at what might have been confusing. And as a result of that feedback, we did make sure that our language thoroughly decoupled the lottery process from the placement process. So that was done, and it was important to do that, one, to make sure that we're responding to the feedback, but also because our lottery is open all year, so other families will also can continue to apply. So that is the process that we went through, and as I shared, it was congruent with law.
Could you comment on, the one comment made was about, they contacted New York State and it sounded like she was trying to read some critical comments about New York State was giving back about us.
I'm unaware of what that feedback was.
Oh, that's not what you said, I'm sorry.
She did make it confusing. She said she was reading an email from them,
Yeah.
but the critical comments were hers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the important thing is, you may recall around this time a couple years ago, we got a surprise when the state aid runs were released and our UPK allocation was doubled. So that was a pleasant surprise, which we weren't anticipating, and it was doubled with the intent for us to be able to add full-day pre-K spots. So at the time, we added 72 full-day spots to see how it would go. It was our first experience with full-day UPK. We weren't sure if the demand would be there. We weren't sure how that would work out, if our parents wanted that. So we had kind of, the first year we had like a hybrid model. And in that year we had a wait list, unfortunately, for our full-day spots, and we had multiple unfilled half-day slots. So we quickly learned that we should maximize the number of full-day spots that we have available to us, and we did multiple things. One, we increased the number of full-day classrooms that we had across the district and our community-based organizations. But two, we then proposed a capital project to the community to put an addition on Windermere so we can add more classrooms for UPK. The difference is, I think the one thing to note is that UPK statewide is not fully funded. So we get a grant allocation, it's a non-competitive grant, and we're only able to serve the number of students that the grant supports. And you'll see in negotiations and in discussions from the politicians as they work on the state's budget, every year they're talking about expanding full-day UPK. So as we watch that commentary from the legislators, that's what prompted us to propose the addition at Windermere. Because the writing is on the wall that it seems as though funding will be coming down the road to have all eligible 4-year-olds in communities in the state be able to get into UPK. But at this point, all communication from the state as well as our district and any district that I'm aware of is that unfortunately there's not enough funding to provide for all 4-year-olds within the communities with full-day UPK. So again, I'm just taking you down memory lane a little bit. I know Dr. Shanahan presented all of these programmatic changes as we were implementing them over the last several years. And the good news is that we see a strong demand for our full-day UPK program. Our teachers report that our kids are thriving and they're learning things and doing things in October and November that in the half-day program they didn't do until June or the end of the year. So we're pleased with that success. But we share, I think, in some of the sentiments of our parents that we wish we had enough funding and space to provide full day for all of our 4-year-olds in the community. And we continue to have that as a goal as we talk to our legislators and elected officials about funding, as well as we look to our facilities and our space, and work on both of those things. So does anybody have any UPK?
What's been our typical wait list? This just seems like a lot. Is this normal?
We had 4 last year as of the actual cutoff day. Like there more come after that because it's a rolling thing. But that was the first year where we had the full day. We had that extra funding. What's happened is the demand for full day has gone up because previously what happened was although we had a wait list for the full day, the half days weren't full.
Yeah, so I think it would be more of an accurate, and I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I think a related question would be how many unfilled half-day spots did we have? Because we had availability and people were saying, no, I don't want the half-day or I don't want the afternoon, I would rather have the full day. And so that was a big indicator for us when we had like 72 full day and 90 half-day spots, and I think we had like 25 half-day spots unfilled that are maximizing our grant allocation to add as many full day as possible. And again, this year we still offer, this year and next year we still offer 1 half-day spot at Amherst Nursery School because there are some families who just feel as though my kid's so young, they're 4 years old, they're not ready for full day, and they want that. But we are seeing the overwhelming demand for full day for many of the reasons that have already been expressed here tonight.
And I think the 3 and 4-year-old, like pre-K, are they closed or are they still all?
Well, a couple of years ago, Garden Nursery School closed.
Garden closed. Okay.
So
And
I
they
guess
never reopened.
in our community, A5C's Amherst Nursery School, in our immediate community, I think those are the,
Right,
and then
those are
the St. Ben, you know, like Christ the King and
Right.
St. Ben's and,
So it's just Garden that closed,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
but
They were decent sized ones.
the private spots are filling up too.
Is there preliminary info on kind of like census data for next year? I imagine these are the COVID babies are coming through next year.
You've talked about the COVID babies a little bit, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we take a look at the live birth rates and we do enrollment projections as we look towards, you know, staffing decisions and those type of things. You know, the interesting thought that I had there, you know, some districts, and it was mentioned here tonight, do implement a census process. However, if you dig into the census process, what that is very akin to our registration process. So what they do is they ask districts to go on and click on like a Google form or a form and fill out your information. Where I feel as though the census process may be limiting is then if you signed up for the census, then you are sent the registration information for UPK. But if you don't fill out the census, then unfortunately you don't get the information from the district about how to apply for UPK. So ours, as Dr. Shanahan mentioned, is a rolling registration process, and we ask families and we advertise our program and we ask them to register as if they're registering to enroll their kids in school, and we use those registrations to run the lottery for the UPK process. So a couple things that I mentioned there. One, as far as, you know, the 2020 potential baby boom, you know, we are looking, and that was another impetus behind the addition at Windermere. We have 2 UPK classrooms that are in the main building now that we're hoping to move into the addition to free up some classrooms in anticipation of enrollment increases. And the only way we can monitor that is by using live birth data that's available by zip code. But at this point, it's not showing that there's going to be an alarming increase of, you know, 2 or 3 classrooms, but certainly we'll have, I think, a bubble come through, which we often do at times.
I agree with that.
Thank you. That's all we had for the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you very much. We will need a motion for new business items.
I'll make a motion for new business items E, 1A through N, 2A through E, and 3A, C, D, E, and H.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving new business items, E1, A through N, 2A through E, and 3A, C, D, E, and H, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Ms. Casoy, do we have any follow-up action items?
No.
And we will need a motion to convene to executive session.
Before you do that, I think it is noteworthy that the termination of part-time staff and then the rehiring of them in the summer is a normal routine.
Customary, yeah.
Right.
And it's customary by law that because they are not accruing seniority and they're not part of the retirement system, or I'm sorry, not the retirement system, but they're not accruing seniority, that annually our part-time staff is terminated at this meeting and then they are rehired again in a summer meeting.
Right, yeah, so the mention that we were terminating an employee that was part of something is not really accurate,
Yeah.
so, right. That's something that happens every year.
I think there's another important comment to make. People keep referring to the huge increases in the taxes in the town of Amherst, and I think it's important to note that those are town taxes, not school taxes.
Right,
They're not Amherst School
good, that's a good
District
point
taxes.
too.
Very good point.
No more 11.4 has nothing to do with us.
Right. We have not increased 11.4%, so. What is our increase coming, this year? Very much.
2.1.
2.1.
We've had
There you
some
go.
increases in certain years too, recently.
Thank you for those clarifications. Now we'll need a motion to convene to executive session.
I'll make a motion to convene to executive session to discuss matters regarding employment of a particular person.
Second. All those in favor of convening to executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, everybody, for coming.